Okay, we're deeper into the VDNKh than I've shown before.
Tell them what VDNKh stands for.
VDNKh, well, I did the other time, but все народные, what is it? Все российские. VVC stands for все российские выставочные центры, and VDNKh. Oh, I can't even remember now. It was at the front.
They're all Russian exhibition centers.
Yeah, well, VVC is what it says, another name for VDNKh. And VVC. Anyhow, you wanted to ask me some questions which may be a bit easier than what does VDNKh stand for.
Yes.
When I haven't got the cheat sheet in front of me.
Exactly.
So anyway, this is the Vostok, isn't it? This is made by Mr. Korolyov, or designed by Mr. Korolyov.
No, it was made by Lenin.
Sorry? Made by Lenin.
Lenin
He wasn't alive when that was done. But
Lenin made everything. He built St. Basil's Cathedral with his bare hands.
The guy that made St. Basil's Cathedral's got his eyes put out. Did you know that?
You don't want to create anything more beautiful than
yeah.
that.
So that was a bit of a cruel thing. Anyway, this pavilion number 32 is the thing with the thing behind it. You can see that from my loggia window. That sort of like grey tit there that you can see going up. So so here we go. There's an aeroplane there. There's Vostok up there with the launching thingy. So there we are. And there's a nice. So you're looking at the actual thing, I suppose, or a replica. I don't know which it is, but it's a replica of the actual thing. And if they do any goldfish in there.
Well, I can't swim, you know.
You can't swim?
I cannot swim.
How did you not learn?
Well, yeah, I can't swim.
Did you not try to learn?
I don't remember. I probably did when I was younger. Maybe I could swim when I was younger.
I was using the learn in imperfective aspects. That's the problem, is that you don't get it, that we don't get aspects in English. So you didn't try to learn. You didn't go to lessons.
Right, I've never had swimming lessons.
Okay. You see, in Russian it would be, did you not learn?
Right.
And it wouldn't be funny like it was then, because you would use the imperfective aspects, and it would like automatically mean try to learn. That's pretty much a kind of object lesson on what aspects are all about.
But in English it sounds very funny.
Well, yes, because learn is automatically perfective.
Yes, exactly.
In English, but I was using it imperfectively, which just goes to show how Russian gets in your head.
We should invent
like a Slavonic version of English.
Yeah,
yes, polyorn. Did you polyorn it?
Yesterday I wrote a letter, pencil on.
Okay, so what did you want to ask me? You said you wanted to ask me some questions.
Well, yes.
I don't know what these questions are going to be.
Well, tell me what you think. Well, I know you've talked about it a little bit, and a lot of people talk about it, but I would like to know more details, because my trip to Russia has given me a little personal insight on it, and I want to know from someone else and their perspective about the concept of building up a passive knowledge or any type of knowledge in a language, but then activating it by being in its living environment.
Yeah.
I think it actually makes a big difference, not necessarily that you're in the
Well, I think the problem is that people don't understand that activation and learning are not the same thing.
Right.
Yeah? That people go off to different countries to learn when they haven't learned much, and they wonder why because what some people may have seen, I think what's happened is that some people have seen marvelous effects. You know, maybe they've been in groups and they've seen that somebody in the group went to the country and wasn't speaking very much when they went. And then all of a sudden, wow, they've been there a few days, and then they suddenly start speaking really fast, and it looks like they've learned at an amazing speed. Oh, yeah. That looks like phony money. What is it? It's just phony money, yeah? It's like monopoly money, but it looks like real money. How can you possibly... It's crazy. It looks like phony euros. How can you have that?
Well,
That's crazy. Look, document holders that are almost made from wood. That's quite classy, isn't it?
it is. So continue.
And yeah, well, what I was saying is that because people have seen people, they've met people that appear to have got this wonderful learning by just simply going to a place, they then think, oh, I'll have a bit of that, I'll go and do some learning in situ as well. What they don't realise is that the ones that do that are the ones that have actually sat there in their own kitchens and dining rooms before and sat there learning, and they have a reasonable passive knowledge already before they've come out.
Right.
And then they've gone out and it's all activated. That's why they usually do, in schools that know what they're doing, which is probably a minority, they don't do the German exchange or the French exchange until the person's already been doing their language for like a couple of years.
Right.
And then going out there, there's something to actually activate. They don't actually start from scratch going out there.
Yes,
But people get the wrong idea. They think that you go to learn. You don't go out on a foreign thing to learn. You go out to activate what you already learned.
To sit there and teach you the language. You're not going to go into the street and have someone teach you Russian here. Go to a street vendor and ask them in English how to say everything you
Well,
want
at
to buy
the
from them.
end of the day, if you look in England, yeah, we have, and please don't, dear viewer, if you happen to be a Hindu or somebody like that, or a Muslim, don't think that I'm in any way denigrating your culture. And I think it's probably not ideal what you're doing to your women, but that's not the point that I'm actually making. The point that I'm making is that there are women that sit behind curtains in their part of the house and barely go out and only associate with others from their own community. And although they live in England, they never even learn English, yeah?
So it is in Germany that a lot of the Turkish women, they don't speak German. They speak Turkish, they stay at home, but they speak.
Oh, that's it. And like, for example, I know a doctor who said, I wanted to be a vet, but I decided to be a doctor because I thought I'd do better if I could speak with my patients.
Yeah.
And it turned out that I came and lived in Slough and became a doctor in Slough, and then I don't get to speak to my patients anyway because they just speak Asian languages and never learned English. So I may as well have been a vet, so, which is not a very nice thing to say, but it's kind of like with medical humour, I suppose. Yeah. So we're actually inside of the big grey breast-looking thing that I can see from my loggia window. This is what it looks like on the inside, and there's not much. There's just
breast, you said?
yes, big breast.
Okay, well, what took place in this building?
Sorry?
What took place in this building?
No idea, but it's got something to do with, I don't know, some kind of, they call it some kind of a cathedral or something.
Oh,
But now it's just got silly souvenir shops. It's got a picture of some astronaut, and it's really, it looks really dove. You wouldn't call that a dove, I'm afraid.
What is that?
They'd call it a pigeon.
Oh, right, the pigeon.
Oh no, he's got a dove. This is a pigeon.
Oh, you meant the live
Yes,
bird.
this is just pretending to be that.
That is a dove.
Yes, that's a dove, and
looks
that's
a
a
little
pigeon.
strange,
It's
though.
the same
It's a dove.
species. It's just two different ways of talking about it.
Right.
In many languages, they just like, for example, in Russian, they only have the one word for the both.
Dove and pigeon.
Yeah.
But the movie, Love and Doves, there are actually pigeons in the movie, but in English, Love and Doves rhymes. So.
Yeah. And for example, when Russians call golubchik, they call their like darling. It's a word of darlings. They're my dove. Yeah. Sometimes when they're trying to say it in England, they say, "What is it, my little pigeon?"
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, about activation. So I noticed a few things, and you can tell me what you think about these observations.
So this, I suppose, is getting into being like more the botanical side of things, because here's a place where they're showing like phloxes.
So I noticed that, well, a lot of people nowadays, they tend to spend a lot of time talking on Skype to start to activate the language. Do you think you might as well not even, if you're going to go to the country anyway, do you think you may as well spend 100% of your time on passive activities?
I think that for those people that have never activated yet a language that they've learned, they should do it at some point. But they shouldn't do it too early, because the longer you leave it, the more fun it is to do it. and the more amazing the feeling is.
Right, it's more, yeah.
Yeah? Whereas you don't get that if you start trying to activate too early. I never could activate, for example, my Russian until I could really get going and talking one time after I'd already learned it for a year and a half, quite intensively on my own and without a teacher, and therefore I had a big passive knowledge. I'd been through all the course and everything. I knew the whole grammar. I had probably maybe already between 1,000 and 2,000 words, but I hadn't. What is this thing in front of us? Strange person. I'd never managed to speak it with anybody because there wasn't anybody there to speak with. Unlike today, when you can't get to the end of the street without hearing Russian in, even in the town where I lived. I lived all along Hemel Hempstead, yeah. Basically, at that time, there wasn't a single speaker within Hemel Hempstead itself. I was on the lookout for anybody. I was asking everybody I knew, find one for me, I want to practice. And it took a year and a half to find anybody. And then I went and actually had my first attempt at actually conversing and got conversing and had a conversation with a living soul. And I had an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to activate, but I had an amazing feeling that I had my first Russian conversation. Actually speaking and being spoken to and having a chat with somebody in Russian, it really worked. It really was a language I could say things that I wanted to say and be understood and understand what that person was saying back. It felt like somebody had poured like a cup of cold,
right, yeah.
a cold juice all over my stomach. Like it had gone. Like I had this amazing. I never had it again. An amazing feeling.
Well, there are definitely different degrees. When I went to Germany, my first day in Germany, I built up so much passive knowledge that I didn't miss a beat. Once I hit the ground, I was able to hit the ground running.
And how did it feel?
It was incredible. And but here, it wasn't the same thing. I definitely, my Russian's functional and I can get around, but I definitely don't know as much Russian now as I did when I first got to Germany. There's a big difference in how satisfying it is.
I want to tell you about something that Steve did. We've mentioned Steve Kaufman already in the course of our conversation, and one thing that Steve Kaufman did was he wanted to test out the idea that he'd seen on my channel as well, and I don't know whether it's something he'd listened to that I'd said or something that he'd read that I'd written, about my views on activation. That if you don't do activating work, but do passive building work like reading, which is what he likes to do anyway, so this is all grist to his mill, but he wanted to test it out for himself. However, when he came to the Czech Republic to test out his Czech, he said, I'm coming to the Czech Republic to test out if this theory is true. Yeah?
Yes.
But, bless him, of course, he loves his Czech so much that he wanted to be talking it all the time on Skype. So he was already half active.
Yeah.
Because he was doing this normal thing that language learners do of trying to talk the whole time.
Yes.
Instead of simply reading, taking passive reading and doing those other things, he had been speaking it. Yeah? And so therefore it wasn't really the way to do that experiment. I mean, God bless him, he wanted to try and do it and try and see how it worked, but you see, the thing is, he came speaking on day one.
Right.
So it wasn't, he didn't have the experience that I was hoping he would have, and then be able to tell the world, yes, this is true.
My German, you say 3 days is the activation period, right?
Well, yes, 3 days.
My German, the 3 days, that's definitely what happened. After 3 days, I felt extremely comfortable. In the first 3 days, I learned some vocabulary that would be difficult to learn from another country, like words like straw, little things that you don't want to look up deliberately in a dictionary.
Yeah.
But other than, like,
they're just things that you happen to come across.
that you pick up as you're there. But then after 3 days, I was dreaming in German.
For example, do you know how to say propolis in Russian?
Say what?
Propolis.
I've never heard that word in English.
It's royal jelly from bees.
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
Well, it's royal jelly. Okay. Anyway, you're about to find out how to say propolis in Russian.
Okay.
Because it just happens to be on...
Oh, okay.
There you are. That's how to say propolis in Russian.
Okay.
Pilza is pollens.
Yes.
Propolis is propolis. Soti, I don't know what that is. Balsams is obviously balsams. And pirga. This is the little...
Yes.
What do you call them? The little... The kind of... Oh, I don't even know. Look, bits of honeycomb, yeah? Bits of honeycomb, effectively.
Huh?
That's what they are, the bits
I've
of
never
honeycomb.
heard that in English.
Yeah,
It's not very American, I guess.
yeah.